So what I want to work on with this little sequence is we're going to work on how to increase your hamstring flexibility without doing anything to your hamstring. Okay. So essentially what we're looking at is the idea that the hamstring is a muscle that a lot of times isn't tight because it's stiff or short like this. Okay, this would be a muscle that when it's bunched up this way, that's what's costing me my range of motion. But the hamstring instead is a muscle that a lot of times is tight because it's pulled and stretched too far this way. We can find that because all of the tissue in your body has shared connections, so whether it's muscle fascia or just crossing the same joints as other muscles, when we get tension in one spot, it can show up as a restriction of movement somewhere else. So I'm going to show you how to use something like a lacrosse ball or a tennis ball to work a couple parts of the body that don't connect directly to the hamstring, but are still going to improve my range of motion there. So to show the difference on how this is going to work, we're going to look at what my hamstring range of motion looks like before we've done anything. So to do that, I'm going to put both my feet together. I'm going to make sure my knees are just completely straight. My back is going to stay totally straight, so I'm only going to allow for movement of my hips so we get a really good perspective on where my flexibility sits right now. My fingertips are just in front of my thighs. I'm going to sit my butt backwards, and as soon as I feel like my hamstrings have reached their limit, it's right about here. So my fingertips are at about the middle of my kneecap. If I need to go any lower, I'm going to start to curve my back. So that's where I stop. So this would be my hamstrings range of motion. So now what I'm going to do is we're going to start working on the feet. Okay, we're going to use a lacrosse ball. We're going to put it right at the heel, and then we're going to move from heel to toe. Every time I find a spot that has a lot of tension in it, I'm going to sit there and push my foot into that ball for about 15 or 20 seconds. There will be a time after you've done that where everything feels like it starts to calm down a little bit. It's not going to be completely pain-free, but it's going to begin to calm itself a little bit. So I start at the heel, and then now I'm just gradually working my way. Right there, there's my first tight spot. Okay, a lot of them will alleviate that initial bit of tension within a good 15 or 20 seconds, so as soon as it does, then we can keep going. So I feel that. Now I can keep moving. So you can tell, just for the sake of this video, I'm not even holding the full 20 seconds because it'll probably take me about a minute or so to get up and down the foot. I don't think you want to sit there and watch the whole thing. But even going in a faster pace, you're still going to see some improvements when we go back and look at this. So right now I'm just going from the middle of my foot, so from the heel to about my middle toe, just down the center line of my foot. And I'm just gradually working my way up. Once I get to the point where I'm at the ball of my foot, that's usually where this is going to end. You don't have to roll over the toes themselves. And by the time you're at the ball of the foot, the tension's usually going to have started to dissipate quite a bit. So I went down the middle of my foot. I would also want to follow this up by going through the arch of my foot right here, especially if you're somebody who tends to pronate or collapse your feet or has really bad arch support in your shoes. You're probably going to want to spend a fair amount of time in this part of the foot. Again, for the sake of the video, I'm not even going to hit it, but I am going to do the other foot, and then we're going to look at that hamstring range of motion. So now when I come back to my hamstring range of motion, if I put my feet together, hey, knees are straight, back is straight. Now when I come back, now I've got my fingertips at the bottom of my kneecap. Okay, so I've picked up about 2 or so inches of range of motion just from working the bottom of my foot. Now it's not a huge difference, but again, I kind of fast-tracked that process. So if I'd have spent time working the rest of my foot, I probably would have picked up a little bit more. But that just covers pulling the hamstring from the bottom this way. I also want to cover the hamstring being pulled this way, so we're going to spend some time looking at the glute. Okay, the part of the glute we're going to go after is called Piriformis. It's basically the part of your butt you would sit on if you were slouching in a chair. So if I visualize, okay, I'm in a recliner sitting like this, I'm cranked on my Piriformis. It's going to get tight just from being sat on, and it's not supposed to be sat on like that. So we're going to take the ball, we're going to put it right to the side of my tailbone. Okay, so I'm not on my tailbone. You never, ever, 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 ever roll directly on bone if there's not muscle over top of it. So I'm putting my feet flat, and I'm simply going to start near my tailbone and work just gradually up and down, just in a very small range of motion. And I want to progressively rotate my hips. So I start at the inside of my tailbone, and as I go, I'm going to end up on the side of my hip. Again, this is probably going to take me a good 60 seconds per side, at least while you're first learning it, until you know the spots you can just jump straight to. Alright, so let's look at the hamstring again. Feet together, back's nice and straight. Okay, so now I'm getting a couple inches below the base of my kneecap. So I went from about here to about here, and I haven't even done anything for my hamstring yet. So the whole thing takes a couple minutes, but it's going to pick up a lot of extra range if you struggle to get the hamstrings to get a little bit longer.